This is the new Longines Conquest Heritage Central Power Reserve. Longines has never been on my radar. I don't know why, but I've never considered the brand of being super interesting for me, or never really looked into the brand, to be honest. But actually, they are one of the powerhouses of Swiss luxury watchmaking. They make millions of watches every single year, and all of them are made in Switzerland. Actually, a brand with a lot of heritage. This is something that I love. I'm into vintage watches, and therefore I am very intrigued if a brand decides to relaunch a product from their history. This watch is exactly that. It is a watch that was introduced in 1959. A first, actually, for the brand, and still a first in the watch industry because no other brand is using this specific complication. In 1954, Longines registered the Conquest model line at the Intellectual Property Bureau in Bern. And that was when the Conquest line was introduced to the world. 70 years later, right now, they are bringing back one of the key pillars of their Conquest model line. And that was a watch that was introduced in 1959 with the Central Power Reserve as a very unique value proposition. And 70 years later, in 2024, Longines decided to reintroduce this specific model with this unique Central Power Reserve. On the contrary to the vintage model, this new watch does not have the older case diameter of 35 millimeters. In fact, it's just a tad bit bigger with 38 millimeters. The watch is also 50 meters water resistant, which I find very interesting, and comes in 3 different kinds of dial variants. Black, kind of a grayish colorway, and the champagne that I have here with me. All of these have applied indices and a date window at 12 o'clock, which is weird. I'm not a big fan of date windows, and I'm not a big fan of the date in general because nowadays you don't need it. But I do understand its position within watchmaking. And therefore, I find it interesting when watch brands decide to put the date window on a different position than 3 o'clock. Nevertheless, there's one key point that I want to make here, and that is that the background of the date window matches the color of the dial. And this is very important. You don't want a black dial with a white background on the date window because then the date jumps into your face. The other thing is that the date window at 12 o'clock is very nicely executed with the rectangular shape. The date window works very well with the skyscraper hands, and therefore you have a very nice executed dial layout. The key feature of this watch is the Central Power Reserve. And this Power Reserve indication is based on 2 different kinds of discs that move around. If you turn the crown and you want to wind the watch, which has a automatic movement, so therefore you can also wind it with your wrist, the indication of the hours will move. The other disc, which has the indicator, it will also move as soon as you stop winding the watch, basically telling you how much power is left in the watch or how many hours are left. And that is quite cool, actually. It gives the watch a interesting look because depending on the day, on the time that you look at the watch, the discs will change and therefore the dial will change over time. And this is what I find intriguing, this playfulness of watches, this nice execution of different kinds of parts with a little hint of fun. And that's what it's all about. Having fun with the things you collect or the things you cherish. It has a lug width of 19 millimeters, which for me is kind of difficult to style the watch. But nevertheless, I think, depending on the dial variant you have, but let's take the champagne dial variant here, I think that you can easily pair this watch with either a honey brown leather watch strap, like for example our Bologna in this nice brown colorway. I'd probably also go for the taupe colorway of the Bologna because it looks cool. Both of these straps are available in 19 millimeters, and we're doing our best to upgrade more and more of our collection to 19 millimeters. I prefer 20 millimeters or 18 millimeters, but nevertheless, this is just my personal take on this particular subject. I'll just have to deal with it. But it doesn't have anything to do with the watch itself. The way the watch feels on the wrist is great. The watch is not too thick, and honestly, I prefer the champagne dial variant because I kind of feel that it has this Wall Street kind of vibe, and I'd honestly wear this on an everyday basis. And with all the specs that you have in this watch, you have a vintage looking watch with a lot of heritage, but also you have modern technology, a modern movement, a modern case with water resistancy. This is what I appreciate, bringing back cool designs from the past, but implementing them in a very well executed way and not overdoing it with thickness of case or not increasing the water resistancy. Because let's be honest, it's rainy outside, we have humidity in different kinds of regions. Overall, there are some instances where you want to wear your watch and yeah, maybe you would fall into the water. This is something that watchmakers should take into account, and Longines did. Now that we finished the specs, let's talk about the price. This watch will cost 4,250 euros here in Austria. And still, I do think that this is a great bang for buck watch. Longines is in this region of Tudor and other brands on the sub 5,000 watches with a lot of value, a lot of watchmaking, and a lot of heritage. You should have a look into the brand, and I will do too. So expect more reviews on Longines watches in the future. That's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do subscribe. And if you want to check out 2 other reviews, please click on one of these. And as always, if you feel like it, put a thumbs up. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.